This is Jocko podcast number 55 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Well, our last podcast, which I guess is no surprise at this point, went a little long. We did not have room for Q&A. So because of that, we will dedicate podcast number 55 today to Q&A. Questions from the interwebs. Thanks to everyone that has submitted questions through the interwebs so that we can attempt to answer some of them.
Yeah.
And with that, Echo Charles.
Yes.
Questions from the interwebs.
Roger.
What do you got?
Well, first question is, how important is purpose, reason, or cause in being successful? Like your purpose.
Right. Well, clearly purpose and reason and cause are extremely important. This is the why of your actions. This is knowing why you're doing what you're doing. This is the commander's intent. And so you absolutely these are important. If you don't know why you're doing something, well, then let me ask you a question. Why are you doing something? It's very clear. It's very simple to understand. So, yeah, you got to know. If you don't know why you're doing something, then what are you going to do when you hit an obstacle? You're going to stop. What adaptations are you going to make when things go wrong to overcome them? You're not going to make any because you don't know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So if you have no reason for doing something, you're not going to do it. So you got to have a long-term goal. You got to understand the underlying purpose of what you're doing. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be rigid, because it doesn't have to be rigid. You know, I'll tell you an interesting case as an example. I'll give you is my own case, right? So, of course, you know, I'm all about planning and always having a long-term plan and all that stuff. But to be honest with you, the situation that I'm in right now as a human, I didn't have a long-term plan for this. You know, Leif and I wrote the book. I had no intention of writing a book. That kind of happened, you know, because people were asking us, and as we worked with businesses, they said, you have this stuff written down. So we ended up writing the book. Once we wrote it, we thought maybe we'd be handing it out when we go and work with companies. Literary agents saw it today. Let me show this to some publishers. Publishers saw it, said, let us publish this. Okay, so you figure you're going to publish it. Well, even when you publish a book, you don't expect that a bunch of people are going to read it. You expect that you're going to have a book published, and that's cool. But it ended up doing really well. So that kind of happened. With that, all of a sudden I was on a couple of podcasts. Well, I didn't have any intention. When I went on Tim Ferriss's podcast, I didn't say to myself, this is going to propel me into my own podcast. Or Joe Rogan's podcast, I didn't say, now, Joe Rogan's going to launch me into the podcast world. No. I didn't expect that, but it happened. And you know what? It happened. It made sense to me. Okay, these two guys are squared away. They're squared away in this particular genre, and they're recommending. My mind is open. Okay, let's try and make a podcast. Did I know that the podcast was going to be super popular? No, I just thought we were making a podcast so that, the few people would want to listen to it. Cool. Then look what happens. Next thing you know, we're making tea. Next thing I'm making tea. I had no idea that tea would be part of my world. So all this stuff happened, right? But the goal, really the reason for me doing all this is still the same through the whole thing. And that is that I want to help people. I want to help people with something that the lessons that I've learned, I want to help them. So how can I do that? Well, you write them down. Okay, you wrote it down so people can read it. Great. How else can you help them? Oh, you can make a podcast so people can access it easily and cheaply. Cool. Here you go. So the underlying goal, I want people to be healthy. Well, what's a good way to be healthy? Stop drinking Monster energy drinks. Stop drinking Red Bull 12 a day and start drinking something that's healthier. Oh, okay, cool. Jocko white tea. Next thing you know, that's what we've got going on. So that's been my goal. And I haven't really, even though I strayed from what maybe the original path I thought I was going to take, I still stayed. My reason is the same. And I think that's what I'm saying. When your reason is clear and your purpose is clear, that's going to make your drive clear, and that's going to make you execute well because you know where you're going, you know where you want to be, you understand your purpose and why you're doing something, and that's what's going to help you be successful, in my opinion.
Do you think that like how, people, they'll be like, this is my why, and it'll be like their kids or something like that. Do you think that falls within this? Like, like reason, purpose, and all this stuff?
Yeah, I think that's the same general. The guy could have said purpose, reason, cause, why. I think that the question could have said that. I think that if your purpose is your kids, really clear example, right? And a lot of people might say that, well, that's cool, but you're going to have to clarify that a little bit more, because if your purpose is your kids, then quit your job and just spend all day with your kids. Well, then obviously you're not supporting your kids because now you can't afford to buy them food.
Yeah, it's like it seems like there's a lot of different.
So your goal should be taking good care of and providing for your children's now and in the future. Wow, okay, now that makes sense. Now you're looking long term, short term. You know that you have to work hard now. You have to make investments for them. So that's the kind of thing. That's beyond just a simple, I'm doing this for my kids. Because what are you doing for your kids? What are you trying to achieve for them?
Yeah. So like, for using that example, like, this is my why, it's my daughter. It's less, this is why I'm, writing a book. It's more, this is why I can endure the hard days, or this is why I'm going to continue to work hard, kind of thing, at whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah, you just have an underlying reason. That's the question, and I think that's the answer. Yes.
Yeah.
It's I should have just answered that in two words. I should have said, how important is purpose, reason, cause, and being successful? Answer, very important. There you go.
You can have a lot of different reasons too, or like a few core, more than one. Is what I'm saying.
And I'd say if there's anything to be taken away from this question, it is if you don't feel, here's I would say the takeaway. If you don't feel some kind of drive in your life, if you don't feel passionate about something, if you feel like you're wandering and meandering through the world, then it's time to assess. Then it's time to say, okay, what is my reason? What am I trying to do? What would I like to do in the world? Now we get something valuable here.
Yeah.
We all know that you got to have a purpose. You all got to have a reason. So if you feel yourself meandering down the path with no reason, no purpose, dig in and find one.
Yeah. Interesting. Next question. I want to begin training in jiu-jitsu, but financial constraints dictate that I can keep my gym membership to keep getting after it at 4 a.m. or begin training jiu-jitsu, but not both. What do I do?
It's a black and white question, is it?
One or the other.
Okay, first of all, check around your area and see if there's a gym that has both.
Right.
I know that's one of the reasons that we created my gym, Victory MMA. There's an and fitness on there too.
Yep.
Because no matter what you want to do, if you're in the game, you can do it there. You can do striking, you can do jiu-jitsu, you can do wrestling, you can do boxing, you can do weightlifting,
all kinds of
CrossFit,
too.
You can do Olympic lifting, you can do powerlifting, you can do calisthenics, so you can do everything there. That's why we created the gym. And it's not more expensive than a straight jiu-jitsu gym, or it's not more expensive than a straight CrossFit gym. It's actually cheaper than both of those. So look around, see if you have a gym that has both. And if there's no gym around there that has both, maybe you do what I did and you start a gym that has both. Right? I mean, you could do that. I did it. Did it with some of my buddies. Said, hey, you know what? We want to train all the time in all these different aspects. How can we do that? Can we go to one gym at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? We have to go to another gym at 5 o'clock. Then we have to go to another gym at 7 o'clock. Do we want to do that? No. So what do? Make our own gym. Make it what we want. And guess what? When you do something like that in the business world, if you I think Tim Ferriss said, scratch your own itch. Right? You have an itch that you want to scratch. There's other people that are going to have the same itch, and that's what happened with our gym. So everyone goes, yeah, I want to train. Of course I want to train. So maybe you start your own gym. And you're not a skilled Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner? Guess what? For the first time ever in America, there's actually a bunch of really good Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. And maybe you couldn't get a black belt to come to where you live. Maybe you could, because there's a good chance you could. But a brown belt, a purple belt, they can be a great instructor.
Yep.
So you might open up a gym and start that. Now, that doesn't mean also that you have to make a huge investment to do that. You could start off with your garage and some mats. So that's an idea. Another thing you could do so that doesn't exist. How about you find jiu-jitsu this is a tough one, right? We want to stay healthy. We want to stay fit. But jiu-jitsu is kind of the priority. It's kind of the priority. And I'll tell you why.
Sure.
It's learning, right? Yep. If you take me and you and we go through this situation and you decide that you're going to do jiu-jitsu and I decide I'm going to weightlift, in 10 years, who's happy and who's sad?
Yeah.
We know the answer. Mm-hmm. The answer is clearly, now I start, because now I have enough money, so 6 years into it, I start training jiu-jitsu, and you're a brown belt or a black belt. Yeah. And I don't have this knowledge, and it's going to take me 6 years to get there. Meanwhile, while you were training, guess what else you were doing? You were doing calisthenics, you were sprinting, you were lifting rocks, you were doing cheap stuff for free, and you're still getting massive benefit.
Yep.
So for me, my priority is going to go to the jiu-jitsu, because you can go and spend $40 on a set of rings for your garage or your basement or your hallway. And next thing you know, you can do pull-ups, you can do dips, you can do muscle-ups, you can do squats and sprints all day long. You don't need anything for that. So you can get a massive benefit with a set of rings, or you can just get a pull-up bar and you can just do pull-ups, and you go to Home Depot and buy a pipe and a couple nails and nail it into the wall. You got a pull-up bar? Now you can do pull-ups, push-ups, and squats, and you're good to go. You could become a beast with those exercises.
Yeah.
So I would prioritize and do that. I would prioritize the jiu-jitsu, and I'd make some kind of a home gym, or I'd go to a YMCA or some cheaper kind of gym. The other thing, you go to your jiu-jitsu school and become the mop person. Start cleaning up. Right. Start mopping mats. That's another thing you can do to make this happen. Maybe you can get a little deal cut at both places. Most gym places that, if you go in there and say, hey, look, I can't afford this right now. What can you do for me? Maybe they'll cut you some kind of a deal.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can likely do, now you're saying you don't have the budget for this situation. What is it in your budget right now that you can cut out?
Yeah.
That's my question. And the funny thing is, what can you cut out? Coffee? A lot of people drink $2 or $3 worth of coffee a day, probably even more than that. I don't know. Right. You're a coffee drinker. You're a coffee drinker. How much does a coffee addict drink a day from Starbucks?
Yeah, that's a spectrum, and
but we're talking
from Starbucks.
Yeah, like 3-4 cups a day.
Yeah, if you're going to Starbucks and buying, I don't know. I don't buy it from. I get coffee from Onnit, to be honest with you. But, so you can make your own at home and stuff. But
if someone works near a Starbucks, they stop on the way to work in the morning.
It's more than a gym membership.
It's $4 a day. Yeah. So that's $120 a month.
Yeah.
So boom, you cut out coffee, or you make your own.
Make your own coffee, yeah.
And you're good to go. What about the nights that you go out to eat? You're like, I don't feel like cooking. I don't go out to a little restaurant. That costs you $30-$40 a shot.
Yeah.
Get rid of that. What about your cable bill? Your cable bill. You're watching TV. Nothing. Zero productive coming out of that. Zero. You're not doing anything beneficial for yourself. Get rid of your cable. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, you get rid of your cable, and now you got enough money for your gym membership. How's another one? Cell phone usage, right? We rack up the big numbers on cell phone. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yep. Is it to surf the interwebs and get, lose your mind? So what can you cut down on that? Because I'm thinking now you could scrape away a little bit here and there, just lower your plan and use your phone less. You're watching the UFC, getting the UFCs. I love the UFC. But instead of watching it at home for $50 or $59, go to a bar and pay $10 to get in and watch it there for $10. You just saved $40 or however many bucks that was, because I forgot what price I gave.
Yeah, it depends.
There's all kind of movie night. What about you're going to go see the new movie in the theater? Yeah. No, don't go see the new movie in the theater. That's expensive now, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it more than $10?
Dang, I don't even remember.
I think it's like $10 or $15.
I think it's 11. Yeah. Well, I went one time. It was 11. This is like over a year ago, though.
Yeah. So cut that out. Bike to work. Do something. You start shaving a little bit of money, because in the long run, what you're going to get from these two things, from fitness and from jiu-jitsu, are going to have so much value in your life. Yeah. They're going to be worth way more what these little marginal things that you're cutting out are.
Yeah, and that way, like at the beginning, how you said, like, what is it that you can cut out? So basically, you're identifying what is it right now that you're considering more important than jujitsu or the gym or whatever.
Which the actual answer to that is nothing. There's nothing more important than your life, than your fitness, and really your jiu-jitsu is part of your fitness, and also it's knowledge and it's confidence and it's okay. I know that people are going to freak out. Okay, I'm not saying it's the most important thing in your life, but in terms of purchases that you can make, these two things are of the highest level. Now you need a car to get back and forth to work, understood. You need a house for to sleep in, understood. You need food on the table, understood. You need to take care of your family, understood. As soon as you get into the optional things in life, these are the top two.
Yeah,
these are the top two.
I think so too. And
tell me I'm wrong.
I can't tell you.
Okay,
you're wrong.
Good.
But as far as making the decision goes, you're essentially identifying what you currently are holding more important than it, regardless of what you think is more important. You got to identify it. And
your actions are a statement.
Yeah. Yes.
Of what you believe.
Yeah, and that a big one too is like drinking. Like, I don't know, not everyone drinks, so who knows? I don't know. This person might not drink at all, but if you buy a 6-pack of beer, let's say you do that, I don't know, twice a week or something like that. That's like more than a gym membership too.
Yeah, that's your
the coffee thing is big too. But there is a lot of little ways. The cable thing, I gotta be honest, only because you're probably not the only one that watches TV. I know the argument is like, hey, TV isn't good, quote unquote, for anybody. So everyone should just be signed on in the household, kind of thing.
So what's your point?
It's not that easy all the time. I'm just saying, like there is going to be some ripples in the, especially when you first make that transition, if you choose to take it upon yourself to cut out cable because you want to go to jiu-jitsu now.
Oh, and you make everyone in your house, you improve everyone in your house mentally and physically, but now they're mad at you.
I know, but it's like surgery. You got to make that initial incision and open up everything and make a mess before you can repair, so that initial part is going to be
most of
a rough transition.
You can get ways around that too. You get Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah.
Or one of those things that you get streaming on demand.
Right. Which is kind of where everything's going anyway, really right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good stuff too.
Good. So
as far as the job,
find a way to do both. It can be done. And you can do it.
Get creative. The home gym is good. That's good because that's something you can just start slowly and start adding to.
Yeah, $40. $40, you got rings.
But after a while, you'll be good to go for sure. Okay, next question. Jocko, had an incident I wanted your opinion on. I love your book and podcast. Always listen and apply your lessons to my life, job, and family. I was driving home one night with my wife and 4-year-old son in the car when some drunk idiot was walking in the middle of the roadway. He stood in front of my car, refusing to move, running his mouth. My wife begged me not to get out of the car. The guy reached into his front waistband like he had a gun. And although myself being a police officer and having countless incidents and experience like this, I didn't feel he did. More like drunken bravado or grandstanding. In any case, I was armed, and having trained in boxing and a little bit of jiu-jitsu, felt I could have handled the situation. This lasted about a minute of him standing there, and eventually I just drove around him while he was running his mouth, calling me names and all that stuff. My first priority, obviously, is getting my family home safely and making sure nobody will ever do any harm to them. But another part of me felt like, what am I teaching my son? I mean, is that okay? Is that okay to let people disrespect you and act any way they want towards you? So I dropped off my family and went back looking for the guy. He was gone. I guess lucky for me as well as him. I'm questioning my decision, not out of ego, but only because of the example I want to be to my son. That you never go looking for trouble and confrontation, but you don't back down from it either. Ever.
Okay. Well, just first of all, you won. Just so you know, you won. You got a wife and a kid.
Yeah.
You won. Right? So, options. What are the options here? Well, for one, if you're a police officer, you could call the police. You could, get on your radio and call them to say what's going on and have this guy arrested before he causes an actual accident, being out in the road like an idiot. So, that's an option. But the other thing is, like, what are you trying to teach your son? Are you trying to teach your son that he should fight every idiot that offends him? If that's what you teach him, he is not going to have a very productive life or a very nice life. So there's too many negatives, right, that can happen there. And this actually happened. Something similar to this happened to me a little while ago. I was down by the ocean, down by the pier in the neighborhood where I live, and there was a tweaker, crazy, drunk on drugs and all that. And it wasn't as direct as this. He wasn't saying anything at me, but he's yelling swear words and he's in front of my kid. This is when my son was probably 6 or 7 years old. And he's just alone. He's isolated, but he's swearing and just acting crazy, right? And what I did was I said to my son, okay, you see this guy right here? Have you heard of what drugs are? This is what drugs do to you right here. This guy, this is where it ends up. So this guy's a miscreant. He's a criminal. And the other thing I told him, I said, what if this guy attacks us? What do you think would happen? And my son was kind of, well, you would choke him, because my son trained jiu-jitsu at that time. And he goes, well, you would choke him. And I was like, that's right. I'm not afraid of this guy. We're not afraid of this guy. This is no factor, because we know how to fight. We know how to defend ourselves. But that being said, what we want to do is we want to avoid this situation. There's all kinds of bad things that can happen there. I told my son, like, this guy could have a knife. This guy could have a gun. This guy could just have a blood-borne disease, right? This guy could have a blood-borne disease. Now I go and get in a fight with him, and now I have a blood-borne disease.
Yeah.
What? That's horrible. That's a horrible situation. So, like I said, I told him that this is why we train. This is why we know how to use firearms. Because when people are maniacs and if they're insane and psychopathic and they have weapons, you need to have a weapon yourself. You need to be able to defend yourself. So this is what I teach my son. My primary objective is to be safe, right? To avoid these situations. And guess what? If you still feel the need to, like, be a man in the situation, or prove that you're a man, or prove to your son that, which is valuable. I'm not trying to put that down. You want your son to see that you should be strong, and that you should be able to stand up for yourself, and that don't ever have to back down to anybody. But that's why your son comes with you to the gym. That's why he trains jiu-jitsu. That's why you train jiu-jitsu. That's why he watches you day in, day out, working out, being strong, being tough, going to the gym, training with firearms. That's why he sees all that stuff. So he knows. I mean, I'll tell you right now, my kids, if you were to ask my kids, like, against a random person in the street, they would basically think I could beat up anyone in the world. You know what I mean? That's what they think, because they see me training all the time, right? Mm-hmm. That's all they see me do. So that's that. Now, the disrespect part, he disrespected me, right? Mm-hmm. Disrespect. And sometimes, disrespect me is one thing, but now you disrespect my wife, right? Well, again, how can you be disrespected? And that's what I would explain to my son. You cannot be disrespected by someone that has no respect for themselves. And if you are a drunk idiot in the street, you have no respect for yourself. You cannot disrespect me. It is impossible for you to give me disrespect. You don't even respect yourself as a human. Right. So that just doesn't even count. And I'll tell my son that all day long, or any of my kids that all day long. You can't be disrespected by someone that doesn't even respect themselves. You know what? I am respect. I'm even respectful to this drunk idiot, giving him the benefit of the doubt. Okay. I am respect. So, then the other piece is not backing down from trouble, right? And I'm not going to back down from trouble, but I am going to avoid it. I'm going to avoid it. And you know what? Trouble avoids me. Yeah. It avoids me. And if you are working out and you're staying strong and you have the confidence because you know you can handle yourself, trouble is going to avoid you 99% of the time. And the other thing is, you got to tell your kids I mean, my son is getting older now. If he gets in a fight with someone, he could kill him. I mean, that's just straight up what could happen. And so now I've got to, and you know, he's a young kid, so he's got to do the things that you're talking about in this question. Prove himself. And prove that he's not going to back down. I got to explain to him, listen, let me tell you what comes with getting in a street fight. A cool rush, because it's fun, right? It's fun. So you get that. Maybe you get a little bit of props. You get a little bit of respect from the. You get a cred, right? Some street cred from your people. Yeah. Let me tell you what else comes with it. Along with those two things, which are cool, right? Possible jail time, possible injuries, possible lawsuits, the broken hand. I mean, even if it's just okay, those are the big ones, right? Jail time, which there's been plenty of cases where there was a case here in San Diego. Guy punched another guy, fell on the curb, dead. Died. Right. Yeah. Those things really happen. Oh yeah. Not to mention you could get, so you get jail time, you get injury. Not to mention you could get killed, right? Because you think you're a tough guy. Guess what? The greatest MMA fighters in the world get caught with a crack in the face and they get knocked out. You fall down and hit a curb. You could die. So there's that aspect too. But then you get to the injuries, right? Because you get in a street fight, you're going to get some kind of an injury. You're going to get some kind of an injury. It's just going to happen. You know, whether it's just a little cut or a little abrasion, you're going to have something. That's a pain. It could be a major injury. You could break your hand. That happens all the time. Lawsuits, because now you're going to get sued. Now they're coming after you. And even if it's just a stupid thing like a ripped jacket or a scuffed knee, it just isn't worth it. It isn't worth it, especially because we're talking about an individual that you can crush in an instant and that has no value as a human. This is not what this person's doing, right? None. This person is an idiot. Don't go down to their level and play that game. Instead, avoid that and go to the gym and train more and be ready. Yeah. That's my opinion. Good job on walking away, going out to find the guy. Luckily, you already said luckily you didn't find him. Yeah. Because right now, who knows? Maybe you'd be the guy that's going to jail. The cop that, you're a cop and you were armed and you went and got in a fight with this guy and you pulled your weapon because you were losing and you shot him. And then what do we see? We see somebody that had a cell phone and they recorded the whole thing and they see you pushing this guy around. Yeah. It's not a good situation. And you got to be ultra responsible when you're carrying. Ultra responsible when you're carrying. You know that. We all know that. When we carry, we got to avoid. That's what we have to do when we're packing. Well, okay. Yeah, and you can kind of tell when someone's scared. You know, when like if this guy and a guy in the street and you're in the car, I don't know, that seems real obvious. You drive around and you go home, but it's. You know, if someone's like if you're walking on the sidewalk and he gets in your way, that's, it's kind of different or whatever. But avoiding the situation, and you're not scared because you prepared or whatever, and you simply walk around or go the other way or something like that. The people with you, they can tell you're not scared. They can tell you're making the right decision. But if you are scared, whether you fight the guy or you run away scared, they can tell that too. Yeah. So I had another situation. The other day, I was walking down the street with my with my whole family. Dang. Okay. Going to get some ice cream. It was a couple months ago. It was in the summertime. Going to get some ice cream. Hell yeah. I had a disciplinary breakdown in my own mentality, and we were going to get ice cream. Sure. So we're walking down the street, and out of nowhere, this guy just gets in my stood up and got in my face really fast, and. I just kind of looked at him and sort of did the, into the semi, not a full on fight stance, but I turned, like a quarter turn and just looked at him because I thought, okay, we're going to rock and roll. We'll make this happen. And almost instantly what happened, what you just described, happened. As soon as the guy got in my face, he immediately, within a half a second, immediately backed down and walked away. It was like he was just trying to prove something, and then he realized really quick he was going to get crushed. Yeah. But anyways, that's the same thing. The guy could tell, oh, you want to fight? Did I ever tell you that story about Hoyler Gracie? Hoyler told me this story, and I guess, Hoyler's a really good surfer. Yeah. And Hoyler was out surfing at a spot in San Diego, and, San Diego, like all surfing areas, is pretty territorial. And there's some aggression. Yeah. In the surf. For sure. And anyways, some guy started getting aggressive with Hoyler. And Hoyler said to him some classic line. It was something along the lines of, hey man, you surf for a living, I fight for a living. If you want to go to the beach, let me know. Otherwise, be quiet. I thought that was a great line. Nicely done, Hoyler.
Yeah. Brad, this time we went on
But it's the same. Hoyler's small. For those of you who don't know who Hoyler Gracie is, Hoyler's a small guy. I mean, he's obviously a master of jiu-jitsu, but he's only 150 pounds, 155 pounds maybe. Really small guy. And he's a nice guy. So he's not a guy that's going to be intimidated. He's not, his looks are not going to intimidate anybody. I don't even think he has cauliflower ears. I mean, he just looks like a nice guy. And he is a nice guy. And he's got a nice presence about him.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is again, to reinforce what you just said, when someone is confident to that level, even though they're 145 or 150 pounds and look like a nice guy with a smile on their face, when you confidently say, look, you know what I do for a living? I fight. If you want to go to the beach and fight, let me know.
Yeah.
And the guy says, oh, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I'll just leave you alone. That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. The little detector goes off like danger,
Yeah, danger. I'm going to get my ass beat.
Yeah. But some guys are, as far as decision making goes, some guys are crazy, where like how you said, like if they're like on drugs, or this guy in this case, if he's in the middle of the road acting like, boys in the hood kind, we got a problem here kind, that's what he said he was doing. Like he's obviously off, like he's not a decision maker kind of thing. Yep. So, if you jump into a situation with him, it's kind of unpredictable in that weird way,
Let me tell you something else. Let's say the guy has a gun or doesn't have a gun. You had the moment to get away from him. Yeah. If you thought he had a gun, you get away from him, right? Let's say you said, oh, you know what? I'm going to confront him right now. So let's say you get in a shootout, you kill him. Guess what you got to do now? You got to hire a lawyer. You got to hang up. You got to take a break from work because you're a cop. There's all these things. It's so not worth it. It's just a pain in the ass is what it is.
It's almost like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but it's almost like you can't like what's the thing? What's the goal we're going for?
Back to the first question of the day.
Yeah. What's
your reason?
Your why?
What would be your reason for doing this?
Yeah, like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna look for the guy. But then like what's the goal? Like what's the out? Like what are we going for there when we go look for him? To tell him not to do that again, or to what? To arrest him?
He's going out to kick his ass, I believe.
Right.
That's what's going on.
Yeah, and then even that you don't. A lot of times we don't. I know when you're in that moment, you don't think past that. You're just like, I gotta get my revenge. Really, is what it is. He shouldn't have done that to me. I'm gonna go teach him a lesson, kind of a thing. I mean, that's the feeling. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but guys are weird, man. You can't jump into that weirdness. Bro, just go home with your family and watch
When
TV.
the confrontation happens, the best case scenario isn't good. The best case scenario isn't good.
If you jump in there?
Just the best case scenario that's going to happen, it isn't good.
Yeah.
Because even if you walk up and knock the guy out with one clean punch, you got a broken finger. You got a broken knuckle. Yeah. Even if you walk up and choke the guy, you got his grimy puke all over. You know what I mean? It's just there's nothing that good is going to come out of it.
Yeah, and
other than it feels good to fight.
Yeah,
but that can easily be remedied by going to the gym and fighting all of your buddies.
And in this case, I don't know. This guy. Oh, you knocked out a weird homeless guy in the middle of the road in front of your family. Like I don't see how that's cool. Yeah. That. I mean, maybe I don't know if that would feel good. I don't think so.
Yep.
But yeah, it's kind of weird. This one time we went on this cruise, and it was me, Terry, Tim. These guys, like Terry's huge.
Yep.
Like I'm kind of big or whatever. Tim and our girlfriends. This guy was behind us in the booth. We were at a restaurant or something, and we were like whatever. I guess the booths were flimsy, so we were shaking the booth. He was behind us. He got up, all crazy. He's like, "Hey, what did he say? He said, hey, yeah, you guys are big, but you guys keep knocking the booth. We're going to basically called us out to a fight. He had tattoos everywhere on his neck and stuff. And at first I was like, man, is this guy joking? Or what's going on? I was confused. And to be honest, I was stunned. Almost like this scenario was so foreign to me. I was stunned. I didn't even know what to say. I don't even know what everyone else was doing. That's how stunned I was. But then Tim, he was kind of used to that kind of stuff. So he was like, is this guy serious right now? He just jumps in. He stands up, goes to fight him. But the guy was a weirdo. That's the thing. It was all of us big guys, And Tim was he wasn't scared. Oh, he was ready to fight. So he gets in his face. They're about to fight. We're on a cruise, by the way. We're fighting. You can't fight on a cruise.
No.
So it's this big scene, And the guy, he was I don't know, I guess he was ready to die or something. Because he was kind of down to fight, and guys came and, like, I think broke it up or whatever. We had to make this big report. It was like this big thing.
So it was all just a pain in the ass is basically what we're saying.
Exactly right.
That's
and
my point.
I'm saying, like, what if we fought that guy, you know?
Yeah.
Taught him a lesson. Or what if Tim fought him or
then
whatever?
Tim's getting arrested, and then you got a lawsuit against him. And
we were on a cruise.
Yeah.
Now we
get
got to go
arrested.
someplace.
Exactly. It's all stupid.
Yeah, don't do that kind of stuff. Next question. Jocko, love the podcast. Part of the question.
Oh, thank you.
Right on. Any suggestions for leading command staff to understanding the ground level troops in a mission?
Okay, so for those of you that are not in the military, command staff, that's sort of, for the business world, that would be like corporate headquarters. You know, the corporate headquarters, you got the command staff, and so it happens in both situations where you end up with the command staff or the corporate headquarters that kind of loses track of what they're actually there for, the ground level mission, the troops that are on the ground. And this is a tough question, but it's also kind of a simple one. So I go back to trying to constantly remind people what the mission is. What are they trying to do? And I had the Admiral, when I was the Admiral's aide, I worked for the Admiral, great guy. And one of the things, I've probably talked about this before, but one of the best things that he did was, because he's so detached from the SEAL platoons, like there's layer upon layer upon layer in between him and them. And actually, believe it or not, the job of the Admiral that's in charge of the SEAL teams, this is going to sound strange to everybody. The job of the Admiral that's in charge of the SEAL teams is to get equipment and gear and training for the SEAL teams now and for like the next 10 years, because that's the way the budgetary process works in the Pentagon. And there's so don't think of, when you think, I know you want to think of the SEAL Admiral as the war fighter that's going forward. The guy that's actually in charge, the senior SEAL. Now you could be at a special operations group. There's other places you could be, but the guy that's in charge of the SEALs of Naval Special Warfare Command. That's what it's called, Naval Special Warfare Command. The Admiral that's in charge of that, which puts him in charge of all the SEALs. That guy, his job is to train and equip SEALs. Train and equip. Not take them into battle, but train and equip. And so you end up with this whole organization where the purpose of the organization is to train and equip. But the organization is huge. And even that command organization gets very big. And so what they start doing is they start losing focus that 10 levels below them, out somewhere overseas, is an 8-man squad in a Zodiac off the coast of some nation doing a reconnaissance. It's they don't even think about it. They haven't thought about that for years. Yeah. And so they lose track. And it happens in the corporate world as well, where the head shed, they're dealing with stuff too, right? They're dealing with legal problems. They're dealing with compliance problems. They're dealing with financial problems. They lose track of the fact that there's a guy on the front line that's trying to fix a car or replace an air conditioner. You know, that's the way it is. So you lose the vision of that. You lose track of that. So what was great about this Admiral that I work for is in these big meetings where they would be talking about, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars of expenditures over the next 12 years and various training commands and all this stuff, huge. And he would always say, how does this impact a SEAL platoon overseas? How does this help a SEAL assaulter go out and shoot a bad guy in the face? That's what he would ask. And that snaps everybody back into reality of what it connects exactly what this question is. Suggestions for leading command staff to understanding the ground level troops. You got to ask that question. In the business side, I've seen the same thing. You know, the guys totally lose track of it. So you end up, you got to ask the question, hey, everything that you're talking about, this compliance thing and this regulatory thing and this new software that you're talking about, let me ask you a question. How is this going to help one of our frontline salespeople close a deal? That's the question. That's the whole reason that we're here. The whole reason that this big staff is here. The whole reason we have this building. The whole reason we have this base is so that a SEAL overseas can close with and destroy the enemy. Or if we're a big corporation, is so that this repairman can make it to a house and fix an electrical problem in a short period of time, efficiently and effectively. That's what we're all here for. So I think that's what you have to do. You have to keep reminding them of what's going on down on the front lines, what the mission is, what the men are doing, what issues are out there. Another thing you could take is you want to take these people with you, or you want to get anecdotal information. I know it's cheap. It's cheap to do this, but you go out and you gather anecdotal information that you can bring back to headquarters and say, hey, you know what? I know we're all doing a good job here. Let me tell you, the troops on the ground need this cold weather gear right now. They don't have it. Here's a message I just got from a guy overseas. They're up in northern Iraq. We thought it was going to be warm. Guess what? It's 32 degrees. There's snow on the ground. These guys aren't prepared for it. We need to get in this gear. Okay, so you're using anecdotal information to paint the picture of what's going on the front lines. Mm-hmm. Same thing with, if you're a corporate guy and you want to make sure people stay engaged, go out on a call with that electrician that's visiting a house on a where there's been a breaker blown and the guy's working through the payment system that you devised that you thought was so smart. It doesn't get connection while you're out in the field and now he can't run a credit card. Yeah. You want to come back and tell the head shed that. Yeah. So those are some of the things. Another thing that you can do is you ask those questions all the time, and maybe you just come up with some kind of a mantra that you repeat all the time and that you sign your emails with that says, we're here to support. We're here to support the frontline guys. We're here for the frontline, or ask yourself the question, does this help the frontline? Every decision that we make, we got to ask ourselves, does this help our frontline? Does this help our frontline personnel? And I think that's what you got to do. Now, one thing that you got to be ready for on this, you got to be ready for someone to say they don't understand the big picture. This is what you got to be ready for, because I've heard this.
Wait, who's going to say that?
The corporate.
Oh, okay.
You go to the corporate and say, look, we got the guys on the front lines. We need to get them this gear. And they go, look, they don't understand the big picture. Oh, right. We can't afford that right now. Look, okay. I hear what you're saying. But be ready for it. It's an excuse. It's an excuse, and you got to be ready for it. And the way that you get ready for it, I've talked about this a million times, the way you get ready for it is you have ammunition. You have ammunition. You got to have your ducks in a row. If you're going to raise your hand and say, hey, here's what's going on the front lines, here's a problem that they have, you can't just back down when they say, hey, they don't know what's going on. They don't get it. They don't get that's a big thing they say in the military. They don't get the big picture. I would hear that threat and I'd say, you know what? Actually, we do get the big picture. We're living the big picture. You don't get the big picture. Here's the big picture. I got frontline troopers that need cold weather gear or they're going to freeze and not be able to operate. Yeah. The picture doesn't get any bigger than that. Yeah. Now, you can't, of course, come across like that. Right. And what you have to do is you have to look at it systematically and over a long term and say, this is a plan. And I've got a plan for the long term of how we're going to get these guys this cold weather gear in the future. But right now, we've got a little fix that's going to cover these guys that are in the field right now. You got to come armed with ammunition so that you can refute this common call that gets made, which is they don't understand the big picture out in the field, so don't worry about them. No, the only reason we're here is for those guys in the field. So let's remember them.
And that's pretty good. Next question. You talk about stepping back or detaching to better assess situations. Can you expand on how you detach?
Okay, so this is one I've been asked. I probably even have I answered this before?
Yes.
Should we just skip it?
No, I think it's worth it.
Okay, I'll go over it. I'll go over it quickly since people ask me all the time. Okay, first of all, you want to detach. Step back. Literally step back. If you're online with a bunch of people in a combat situation, literally step back. If you're in a combat situation, point your weapon. Point your weapon at the sea, at the roof, at the sky, whatever. You're not going to engage any targets. You're going to step back. If you're in a business environment, step away from the computer. Step away from the terminal. Put down your pen. Back away. You're in a meeting, heated meeting. You need to detach. Stand up, back away from the table. But it's literally stand back and step away. Once you do that, you relax. Now, that physical part that I just talked about of literally stepping back, that's something that it's a physical reminder of what to do. You can get to a point in your life where you don't need to do that. Yeah. Or where you usually don't have to do that. But things can still escalate quickly to where even the most highly trained detached person still has to step back and take a wrap off and take a look around. So in most of these situations, especially when you're first starting to try and do it, physically step back. Physically do something that indicates to you as a person, and it actually indicates to everyone around you that you're doing this. Like when somebody stands up from the table and steps back, it's an indicator. Okay, he's taking a wrap off, right?
It's all dramatic.
We get it. Yeah, actually, we're trying not to be dramatic, but it's going to be dramatic anyways.
Yes, it is.
Now, take a breath, look around, and make a call. That's it. That's how easy it is to detach. Now, the actual hard part of detachment is being self-aware enough that you know when to detach. That's the challenging part, because they end up in the situation. By the time they go, man, I should have detached. Yeah, that's right. You should have detached. You lost your temper. You got involved. You couldn't make a decision. You got dragged into the weeds like everybody else did. If I would have, and I've done this plenty of times when I was training SEAL platoons, I would just go up to the leader who was getting dragged in a situation. I'd be like, hey, step back with me. I'd take them 2 steps off the line and be like, look around, and then they'd easily be able to make a decision. Yeah. That's the easy part. The easy part is stepping back. The hard part is knowing that you need to do it, because it's like, I guess it's to use the stupid analogy of the boiling frog, right? Where you put a frog in water, you slowly start to boil it. Next thing it knows it's dead. It didn't realize that. If you threw it into hot water, it would just try and jump out immediately. Yeah. It's the same thing here. You don't walk into a room and the chaos is going on. No, you walk into the room and everything seems okay, and then it starts to escalate. Next thing you know, you're in it. And next thing you know, something bad has happened and you didn't detach in time, so you lost the bubble and you lost control and everything went sideways. So you got to understand when it is you need to detach. You got to have your own personal red flags to tell you that it's time to relax. When you feel yourself getting frustrated, when you start getting like that, you need to detach. When you feel, if you're getting flustered, you go back, okay, detach. If you start feeling angry, or you start feeling the white knuckles, or you start pecking hard at the keyboard, right? Sure. Right? When you type an email out and you're hitting the keyboard hard,
yeah, it's an indicator.
For sure. You better not hit send, because whatever you wrote isn't good. It's not going to solve any problems. Your raised voice, right? You start raising the voice, you start getting angry and aggro with people. Those are the little things. Those are the little indicators that tell you need to detach, step back, take a breath, look around, walk out of the room, put your weapon at high port, just relax. Look around, make a call. One more thing. Sometimes what the reason you need to detach is just so you can see something from a different angle. And you can ask a question. I personally love doing this. I'm in a meeting, right? And I work with a bunch of businesses. And it actually gets pretty, I'm getting involved in what they're doing. And they'll be all basically staring at a problem, right? Staring at a problem, and they can't figure out what the solution, whether it's a leadership problem or a process problem, and they're all staring at this problem. And they can't come to a solution. Well, I come in, first of all, I'm totally detached, right? Yeah. It's one of the benefits of my job is I'm totally detached. So when I come in, a lot of times, what I bring to the situation, or what I can see, is I can just ask a question that none of them could think to ask, because they're all looking in the same direction. As soon as you flank that idea, you see it from a different angle, you come up with a solution. So my point in this is, don't only use detachment to prevent your emotions from driving your decisions. Also, use detachment as part of your creative process to detach from your current thought pattern and move to a new thought pattern where you can create new ideas and different plans from different angles that were not seen from your previous vantage point.
Interesting. It's good.
So I guess we did get a little bit out of that detachment there.
Yeah.
Revisitation.
Next question. How to deal with people who use military vet status to excuse bad behavior in the civilian world.
Yeah. This is an unfortunate one to have to answer. And unfortunately, I have to start it off with the same way I made this point about jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu practitioners not necessarily being good people.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the same thing with veterans, just like it's the same thing in every aspect of life. Mm-hmm. Just because someone is a veteran does not mean that they are a good person. And being at war is certainly not an excuse for bad behavior. And I have a couple examples just to think about. Major Kurt Chu-Een Lee. Mm-hmm. You remember this guy? Navy Cross. This is the guy that wore the pink vest at Incheon so his men could identify him. The enemy could identify him clearly too, but he was the leader. He saw hell, right? Wounded. Men died. 27 of his men made it. I mean, just ridiculous. Guess what he did when he got out of the Marine Corps? Oh, went to work for an insurance company for 20 years. Right? So Joe Owen, who, same chosen reservoir battle, never regained the use of his arm that was wounded, was medically retired from the Marine Corps. Guess what he did with all that angst and horror? Guess what he did? Yeah, he created and ran his own marketing business until he retired. Now, you remember John Chafee from that book, The Coldest War? He was the captain that I kind of wanted. The reason I did that book was because he was profiled in there and he just was a great leader. Well, I don't even know I don't remember if I talked about this, but he turned 20 years old at the Battle of Guadalcanal, right? World War II. He fought at Okinawa, World War II. Then he went to school, went to either Yale or Harvard or both, but then Korea kicked off. So then he went to Korea and got after it more. So all this war, what did he do with all that? He came home, became the mayor of Providence there in Rhode Island, became the governor of Rhode Island, and then he became Secretary of the Navy. But so my point in saying these things is veterans are not broken humans. They're not deranged people. They're just people. And they've seen some stuff. And most of them are carry on and do awesome. The greatest generation. Think of the greatest generation. All those World War II vets. They saw horrors of war. Guess what they did? Came home and dominated. That's what they did. So men and women can overcome the impact of war, or at least they can learn to work with it. Because even if even if you have those things that stress you out, okay, but guys learn how to deal with it. Of course, that being said, war, it does leave a mark, and obviously sometimes it can have a extremely negative effect. So if you know someone like that, well, let's get those veterans some help if they need it, and get them some support. Also, make sure you're not enabling this bad behavior. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to enable this bad behavior. The vets that I meet, they're fired up. They're not complaining about anything. They're getting after it. Don't enable the bad behavior. It doesn't help anyone. And it's one of those things that it might make you feel better. It might make me feel better to help someone out and say, hey, I understand. Let me enable your behavior some more. And it might make me feel better because I feel like I've done a good deed, but you haven't done a good deed. Yeah. You've actually not helped them at all. That's one thing I think that's good if you find other vets for them to talk to, because other vets will say, man, I understand, bro. It's okay. But let's not dwell on that past stuff. Let's move forward. This guy's offering you a job, or this guy has a job for you to do, or this guy has a position you can fill. Do that. Yeah. Do that. Don't dwell in the past. The past is gone. War's hell. I know. Now let's live in the heaven we got here in the United States of America. Let's take advantage of that and not dwell in the past. And this is another small thing, but I just hear so much about it from people. If you got somebody, have them listen to this podcast. I hear from a vet every single day. I hear from vets around America that are like, hey man, thanks for having the podcast. Thanks for what you talk about. I get it. Appreciate it. A guy just sent me a message today. He's like, look, man, I didn't have a gun in my mouth. But he goes, I wasn't doing good. I'm on track. I'm training jiu-jitsu. Literally, I'm training jiu-jitsu. I'm in the gym. I'm busting my ass at my job. Appreciate it. That's all it is. That's all it is. Because I think when vets listen to the podcast, they go, okay, cool. There's other people. They know we're in the game together. Yeah. They feel that connection, and they know that they're not alone. Because that's the thing that's jacked up, man. Veterans that they go to war and they come back and they go somewhere where they're just not, there's no one there. Yeah. And all this is a big bullshit session. You know what I mean? Between, a veteran that's in a book and I'm having a bullshit session with Joe Owen. That's what it is. And so I think veterans, they hear that and they go, yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah. So have them listen to the podcast and that might be helpful to get them feeling like they're not alone out there.
Yeah. I would think that's the main thing. Like, people don't, you don't understand me. You don't understand, not to sound too soft, but you don't understand how I feel about this, even day-to-day stuff. Like, the way I'm seeing this right now, you don't understand. Yeah. So you end up feeling, I'm assuming, that's what it seems like.
Guys end up feeling alone, and they're out there, and they're like, and the other thing is they feel like people don't understand me. Yeah. And I'm here saying, you're right, they don't. Yeah. They haven't been to war. And the experience of war is all over the place. I mean, I would shine Major Kurt Chu-Een Lee's boots every day for the rest of my life if I had the opportunity to. Like, that guy's experience. I mean, I'm not even the same ballpark. You know what I mean? Not even the same not close for what those guys went through at the Chosen Reservoir. And it goes all the way down to some guy that, was overseas, that was in the military, didn't even deploy to Iraq or Afghanistan. Not their fault. They might have wanted to, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. Yeah. So the military experience is all those things. Yeah. And you don't know what you're dealing with. But one thing we do know is that it is a common experience. Going to war, it does have some common threads to it. And I think that it is hard for people that haven't experienced it to understand. Yeah. And it makes people feel a little bit like alone out there. So when they hear other vets talking about what goes on, they go, yeah, man, all right, cool. These are not abnormal feelings that I'm having. Right. And they can move on. And I don't know if I've really answered the question of how to deal with people who use their status as an excuse to bad behavior. I think just like anyone else, man, you gotta do your best to put them in their place. And I think what makes non-veterans feel intimidated, man, when I was a kid, I looked up to all the Vietnam veterans. Yeah. And I just thought, these guys, whatever they could do no wrong in my eyes. When I was a kid, I was like, no, that guy's awesome. That guy was a nom, that guy could do no wrong. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of civilians have. Like, they don't want to approach the subject. Right. And if you feel that way, it's understandable. It's hard. But find some vets around that can help you, that can help that person, that can talk to them about what they're doing. I mean, every company that I work with, there's veterans at every company I work with. Usually have multiple veterans. So find some other veterans. The one thing that's another cool thing that companies do is within their company, they'll have like a veteran program or a veteran club basically inside their company. That's another cool thing. Do that. Get that thing started. Even if you're not a vet, find the senior vet or the vet that's fired up to do it. Bring him in, and then those guys can get together, talk about doing better, and talk about bringing some of their military experience to bear in the company, and it just will turn out good. So those little veterans organizations, that's what they call them, veterans organizations inside of companies, are pretty cool. I've spoken to a few of them. It's a pretty cool deal.
Nice. Next question. How does default aggressive apply to jiu-jitsu? Or does it apply to jiu-jitsu?
Well, good question. Now, first of all, it doesn't apply during training. Okay? But it completely applies during competition, and obviously it applies in the streets. So what I mean by that is, in training, it's okay to get in bad positions. It's okay to let things happen. It's okay to let somebody grab that collar or grab that sleeve or get a cross side. It's okay. I mean, it's okay to put yourself at risk in competitions. That's okay. Matter of fact, it's encouraged. in a lot of ways.
In training.
Yeah, in training. It's encouraged in training. But in competition, you can't do that. You cannot do that. In the street, you definitely cannot do that. In fact, in the street, you've got to proactively and aggressively, first of all, avoid the bad situation. But if they come, then you've got to handle those situations with aggression and speed and violence of action. That's what you've got to do. So competition is kind of the same way. In competition, if you give a guy an inch, if you give a guy a grip, if you give a guy a position, they will not let go of it. It's not happening. They will hang on to that thing like with the gi in competition. Somebody gets a grip on some part of your gi, they white knuckle that thing, especially in the lower belts. But it's the higher belts too, man. It's every belt. Yeah. Because that gi, that grip, can be the difference between winning and losing. Period. Yep. So you gotta aggressively avoid that. You gotta be aggressive with your positions. Now in training, again, you let it happen. But here's something that can happen in training. Sometimes you get guys that get used to training and they go into competition, they get overrun. They get overwhelmed and overrun because they thought, man, the guy grabs my collar. Hey, Jocko grabs my collar every time we roll. Right. And they don't realize that when this guy grabs your collar, he's going to attack. Yeah. And so what you have to do, and the other thing is in a competition, there's a time limit. Because there is kind of there's such a thing sort of as a counter puncher in jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah. Someone that, and I'm kind of like that, right? Like I don't usually force a move to happen. Usually I'm going to let you make your own mistakes. I'm going to let my opponent make a bad move, and then I'm going to capitalize on it because there's a lot less work for me. I mean, it's a lot less work when your opponent gives you the submission or gives you the transition or gives you the sweep than trying to make it happen. But again, in competition, it doesn't really work because they're not going to take any risk. They're not going to take any risk, and there's probably not going to be any openings. Now, again, another piece of this in a long match, maybe I'm just trying to tire somebody out. Yeah. Now, in the gym, I have an unlimited time to do that. I can tire somebody out for 20 minutes just trying to let them pass my guard, and they're trying to pass my guard the whole time. I'm getting them tired. And finally, they expose themselves. Boom, I put the choke on. Good, I win. That took 20 minutes. This happens on a daily basis. In a competition, I just lost because that was a 10-minute match. And the other guy was on top for 10 minutes trying to pass, and he got the advantage and he wins. So that can't be your strategy if there's no time limit. It's the same thing in war, right? In war, you can have a strategy of, I'm just going to wear the other person out. I mean, the Vietnamese did it to America, right? They just kind of wore us out. Look at what the Russian strategy that they used against Napoleon, they used against the Nazis. Oh, you want to come at us? Cool. We're just going to back up a little bit at a time. Back up a little bit of time, back up a little bit of time. Here comes the winter. And now you're going to freeze to death and we're going to surround you and you're going to kill you. Yeah. But that's the same type of strategy. It doesn't work if you have a limited amount of time to win. Yeah. You have to have, if you have a limited amount of time, which most cases you do, you have to have a default aggressive attitude and make things happen the way you want them to happen, not the way your opponent wants to happen. Have them happen, not the way your enemy wants them to happen. And it's the same thing, obviously, in business and in life. The good things, the good positions, the good details, the good promotions, the rewards, they're not going to come and knock on your door. You got to go out and you got to take them. You got to make them happen on the mat, in business, and in life. So get default aggressive. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, it's weird. And jiu-jitsu is so ambiguous as far as like an art. And there's like this big spectrum and there's all these exceptions. You know how you say the counter puncher in jiu-jitsu where like some guys even like you can be a counter puncher in jiu-jitsu and still be like aggressive, but so your first move won't be like, okay, if you're going for a sweep, your first move won't be the sweep. Yeah. You'll go, okay, I'm going to do this other thing, I know his reaction is going to open him up for the sweep.
Well, for sure. That's cover and move, actually. It's cover and move. It's flanking. It's flanking because
all that stuff.
Yeah, because I start attacking your neck and you pull your hand up to defend it. Boom, that took your base away. I'm sweeping you.
Right.
Boom. That's what it was. It was a cover and move. I'm covering my actual attack with my other move.
Yeah.
Or you can call it a flank because you think I'm going to come at the front, but then I'm flanking you from the side with the sweep.
Yeah, when you put all your troops on the front, the front. Yeah, it's almost like that's almost like a philosophical question where you can answer it as it applies to something specific. So, like, for example, like default aggressive in jiu-jitsu, meaning my default aggressive way of approaching it will give me advantage in this way, where I'm going to impose my game, whether that's the counter-punching game, whether it's the wear him out for a while game, whether it's, overrun him with my conditioning game, whatever that game is, I'm going to aggressively put it on him before he puts it on me. Default, like right from the time the guy says go, or, when it goes down the street, whenever. Even in training, whatever. You're training like that if you want. So that'll keep him in the defensive where he can't get his game going on you. He's defending your game the whole time.
Yeah. You definitely want to impose your will. We say that all the time with UFC fighters. You want the UFC fighter that imposes his will on the other fighter is going to win.
Yeah.
They're going to win. And it's the same thing with war. You impose your will on the enemy. That's what you do. You impose your will on the enemy and you'll break them.
Yeah, man. That's why you see guys like in UFC, they'll run to the middle of the ring, because they're like controlling the ring. Or like BJ Penn would always be, if he's coaching somebody, he'll be like, be first.
Yep.
It's like you put him so the guy got to defend the whole time.
And
Keep it on him.
It's when you're going against a striker that has that attitude and is being first, it's not fun. It's not fun. They're hitting you and you're just defending the whole time. Yeah. And it's hard to turn it around.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And you can tell, like, when you roll against a guy, and we talked about this before, when you roll against a guy, and even if he's not, like, his game isn't aggressive, but right when you lock up with him, you can tell he's just in the correct position. Mm-hmm. And you're like, dang, I can't get, like, a good, like, and when you're like, okay, I'm going to get in my position, and he just adjusts, like, immediately.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, you're like, oh, dang, that's in a way, even though that might be, like, kind of like a passive game sometimes, it's like, just his game being put on you, position-wise in this case, is that default aggressive, as opposed to like sometimes like in training, you're training with me, you'd be like, okay, it's essentially letting someone get into a good position on you, so you're training your defense or whatever. Yeah. That's different. That's not default aggressive.
No, you're talking about I'm really good from the half guard.
Yeah.
So I let you get past my full guard to the half guard, and now you're in my world, like something like that.
Yeah, that would be, I guess, would that be considered default aggressive?
It's like Stilts. Stilts has his weird game because he's tall and lanky and flexible. Mm. And so he does things, like he'll stick his foot in a place where any normal situation in jiu-jitsu, you'd grab his foot all day long. Yeah. That's what he wants you to do. Yeah. And I was just telling him the other day, I said, all these little things that you want me to do, I'm not doing any of them.
Yeah.
And it's weird. And you just stop doing them. And so the way he imposes his will is by giving up these bait. He just throws bait out there all day long. And he wants you to get you into these positions that he's good at. Yeah. And so you can't take the bait. You can't take the bait. And sometimes the bait is ripe looking. Yeah. It's like ripe for the harvest.
Yeah. And it's everywhere, too.
Yeah. And so you got to just say, nope, I'm going to stick to the game plan here. Yeah. I'm going to impose my will, which is I'm not going to grab the bait.
Yeah. And that's so crazy because, like I said, kind of philosophically, that is a default aggressive thing when all you're throwing out is bait.
Absolutely.
So instead of imposing my game, I'm like kind of lured by this bait. Even if you know the bait is there. You're on your heels because you're watching out for the trap.
Well, this is just to kind of, I think, down the same vein that you're talking about. I talk about safety. Like I'll talk to companies about safety. Industrial companies or construction companies, or manufacturing companies that have, can have people get killed if they're not careful. And so I talk about being aggressive. And it's okay. Well, then, Jocko, how does default aggressive going to keep us safe? Because if I got guys that are out on a construction site being super aggressive all day, guess what? They're going to take risks that they shouldn't. And I say absolutely wrong, because guess what you're going to get aggressive with? You're going to aggressively implement your safety procedures. You're going to aggressively, like, hey, you know what? I see a guy walking around the job site without a helmet. We're all over him. Hey, jackass, put your helmet on, get over here. I'm writing you, whatever you're going to do. Right? Oh, I see a guy without a seatbelt. Hey, you're not allowed to be on the site without a seatbelt on. Get over here. You got to, we're docking your pay. You're going to get aggressive in the implementation of your safety procedures. And yes, that will make you safer.
Yeah. So I guess when you hear the word aggressive, you automatically
I'll give you another
physical.
example. Yeah, I'll give you another physical example. Another physical example is, okay, we're in a defensive perimeter. I don't have enough men to move, or I've got wounded guys. I am going to aggressively set security. Right? I'm going to put a big machine gun over here. I'm going to get that high ground over there. So you can do things aggressively, even though by their nature, they might not seem aggressive at first.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, fully. So it's almost like it's deeper. It's deeper than just like physically just jumping in. You
Absolutely.
know, it's more like the idea of whatever's going on.
Here's another one. I am going to aggressively
ignore you.
No, I'm going to aggressively counsel you and mentor you. Now, the worst thing I could do is go, Echo, you better listen to me. That's the worst thing I could do. Mm-hmm. But to be aggressive in doing that, what am I going to do? I'm going to set really good goals. I'm going to flank you. I'm going to get into your mind. I'm being aggressive, but it's not an external aggression. It's an internal aggression that only I know is happening. You're going to know what's happening in a year when you've all of a sudden improved and you've been successful, and you go, dang, man, Jocko's really helped me out with some stuff. I didn't really realize that was going on, but he did. I was aggressively doing it, but you would have never called it aggressive from an external viewpoint.
Yeah, so it's as opposed to, let's say, like some sort of a laid back approach, right? Like if you have a laid back approach to security, if you have a laid back approach to mentorship or whatever,
or a laid back approach to safety. Well, none of those things are good.
Exactly.
That's why we have a default aggressive attitude about things.
There you go. Clarified.
We get after it.
I don't know, though. One could say that, back to the question, one could say that having a laid back attitude in jiu-jitsu. Then again, on the street, that'll be less likely.
To have a laid back,
jiu-jitsu in the street. There's exceptions everywhere, I would think. But I would say, if it's going down, it's going down. Default aggressive.
Get aggressive in the street.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Once it happens, once the decision has been made, get after it.
If it's go time. If it's not go time, it's not go time.
Avoid it as long as you can. Yeah. Avoid it as long as you can. Yeah. But when you got to go hard.
Go hard. Legit. Dang, I think we are at our last question, my friend.
Cool.
Jocko, does complacency come with age? I see a lot of guys that back off as they get older. Do you have the urge to back off?
Does complacency come with age, and do I have the urge to back off? Negative. Back off, not happening. I hear that I'm over 40, I'm pushing 50, whatever. Bring it. Back off, negative. Not happening. In fact, I'm stepping it up. I'm training harder, eating cleaner. I'm training more. I'm learning and reading and studying more now than I ever have in my whole life. Do I get dinged up? Of course I do. There take some injuries. Yeah. You know what? No factor. Deal with them. Because you know what? You know what I hear? I hear the clock ticking. That's what I hear. And the end is nigh, and time waits for no man. And you young guns out there, 18 years old, 20 years old, 24 years old, listen. Life goes by, and it goes by quick. Don't waste those years. Don't waste them. Live them. Now, I know. I I know that you don't think you're going to live to be 30, much less 40, but you are and you will. And the earlier you get in the game and get on track, the better life you're going to have. Healthier, wealthier, stronger, smarter, better. Better. And if you're an old man like me and you haven't gotten on track yet, get on track. Get on it now. Everyone listening to this, here's the deal. No complacency. No complacency. No backing off. No slack whatsoever. Fight. Fight that ticking clock with everything you got. So, like the end of a hard day, you can put your head down with ease. Satisfied that you've given your best. And I think that's all I've got for tonight. Now, Echo, if anyone wants to get in the game as far as this podcast goes, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, it's as far as this podcast goes and as far as they go. I don't know if I'd call it help. I'd call it supplemental additions to your life. Supplements. Onnit.com/Jocko. You get 10% off for real supplements. And I said this before, but I think we should say it again. That sometimes when you buy
Something
supplements,
tells me you're gonna say it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it again because I don't think.
Are you gonna talk about chalk?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
Because sometimes I don't know how it is now. I've been out of the supplement game for a while. As far as taking protein powders,
As far as the bad supplements.
Yeah, or we'll just say the general mix of supplements. Power Gainer 5000 or whatever, recovery, XYZ, whatever. Sometimes it can just be nonsense in there. But on it, going in, I think we all know that it's the legit one. The only legit one that I know of. For sure. The one that I know guaranteed is legit. Put it that way. That I do. Anyway. I would recommend krill oil 100%.
Krill oil is real. Take it.
It's for your joints.
I take 3 500 milligram krill oil in the morning and 3 in the evening.
Oh, dang, 6.
Yes.
Dang, okay.
That's what I do. That's
I take
how
3
roll.
a day.
Okay. That's fine.
My daughter lifts them up to the sun, and she thinks it's like a red jelly bean.
Oof.
It doesn't taste like a red jelly bean. Don't eat it. Don't chew it.
No,
you just
don't
swallow
chew
it.
'em.
Yeah, it's a little thing. Anyway, that's a krill oil. The Warrior bars, that's a big deal, I think. Because they're like...
They're the opposite of a donut in every way except for taste.
Yeah, they're gluten-free too, by the way. Yeah, they taste different than a donut, but just as good, if not better, my opinion.
Better.
I ate 3 of them all at once. I just called it a meal. It's my meal.
Do you stack
3
them together
Warrior.
or you do individually?
No, bro, individually. But anyway, and also Shroom Tech. So a lot of people, how people, they'll say, hey, a lot of people been asking me when, bro, a lot of people haven't been asking me. You're just making like a lot of people are asking you. I'm not saying everyone that says that does that, but I'm just saying sometimes you think. But for real, a lot of people have been asking me, is Shroom Tech real? Is Shroom Tech real? I hear good things, all this stuff. Okay, Shroom Tech is real. Shroom Tech Sport. I haven't tried Shroom Tech Immune.
I haven't tried it either.
Yeah.
Because I'm more in the sport mode.
Right. You usually sport, not sick. But you can just have it because you just want your general immunity to be solid. That's like a good, solid thing. Nonetheless, Shroom Tech Sport is real. And I made this analogy again. I think it's worth saying again. or before. So
again, I think you're going to say it again, regardless if we think it's worth it or not.
Yes.
So let's just do it.
So like, okay, this is how it works in layman's terms. You know how when you're driving a car and it's about to red, the needle's going to go into red. Mm-hmm. You're like revving it, with RPMs. Boom, you're going to be in the green. You're going to get to the yellow, even the orange. When you hit the red, you can't pull ahead. Can't pull ahead if you're in the red. So what the Shroom Tech does, you take the Shroom Tech, boom, you're in the green. You're going to hit the yellow a little bit later than normal. You're going to hit the orange, maybe. And the Shroom Tech is just going to keep you in the orange. You're going to keep the needle in the orange, maybe even in the yellow. And you're going to notice that.
Okay.
That's how it works. Anyway, get 10% off if you go onnit.com/Jocko. There you go. Boom. Support yourself, support your wallet, support the podcast. Jiboha. A good way. Also, if you shop at Amazon, which we all do, Christmas has probably gone at this point, but we still need normal stuff. Duct tape. What?
Pens.
Cables. Right? From your TV or whatever. Anyway, before you shop on Amazon, you click through our website, which is jockopodcast.com. On the side there's a little Amazon banner. You click there, boom, do your shopping. You can support that way. I use the analogy of the little sodium piece that when you throw it in the water, it makes this big explosion situation. That's kind of the comparison as far as supporting this podcast. Because when you click through the Amazon banner, it's like such a small thing. It's so easy. It doesn't cost you nothing. But then the support that it brings is like a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Bro, I'm telling you.
Well,
it's good.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
Small gesture of support to the podcast.
The small gesture goes a long way.
Yeah, especially when you team it up with a bunch of other people. The death of 1,000 cuts will kill someone, but the life of 1,000 clicks is what we're doing. Just the small clicks is. Echo's looking at me like I said something bad.
No, good. You said it good. The
good.
life of 1,000 clicks.
The life of 1,000 clicks.
Yeah.
You click on that thing, yep. You're going to get some duct tape. Might not seem like a big deal, but if a bunch of people got duct tape and they all click through, maybe it turns into a big deal. Yeah. Then we don't have to put advertisements on here.
Yeah.
Which we don't want to do.
Yeah, or we could.
Maybe we will.
Jocko will be reading advertisements.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happening because we got support from.
Speaking of duct tape,
folks.
Remember the Penn State duct tape?
Yeah, from Sarah.
Sarah, 2 blades.
Yeah.
Sarah, I need some more duct tape. Anyway, back to the Amazon. Yeah, so go to the website, click through the Amazon before you do the shopping. That's a good way to support. Good way. Thank you guys for that. Also, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes.
Or on Google Play, or on Stitcher or on, what's the other ones? Those are the big ones.
Yeah. Other stuff.
Yeah. What other things you might need?
Yeah, whichever one it's on, man. That seems obvious, but that's a cool way to support. And then the YouTube as well. We'll put some excerpts on there. More excerpts. That's the right word, right? Excerpts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Little bite-sized nuggets of Jocko wisdom that if you are inclined to share, you can share and kind of be ensured that the likelihood of them listening to the whole thing is higher than if you just share the episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, hey, here's the good way to approach college, and you want to share this with your friend because they got a son that's going to college, or you're sharing it with your friend because they're going to college, they're going to listen to that way more likely than listening to 2 hours of that episode.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Because maybe they're going to college like that day or something. You know what I mean? Or they could just listen to it while they're in college, whichever. But anyway, they're just more consumable, we'd say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bite size.
Bite size.
Like a McNugget.
Jocko McNuggets. Yep, exactly. So anyway, the point there is YouTube. That's a cool way to support and whatnot. Anyway, there's a store. Jocko has a store. It's called Jocko Store. And there's T-shirts and whatnot on there. They're cool shirts. I think so. I'm not like one of those people where they're like, they're cool t-shirts, because that's a subjective thing. So I would invite people to go to jockostore.com. Look at the t-shirts. That's it. That's all. Look at them. If you want to buy one, if you notice the layers, if the layers resonate.
I thought you gave up on the layers. Now you're back in the game.
We're still doing layers. Yeah, we're still doing it. If they resonate with you and you're compelled to get a shirt, support the podcast, represent the layers in your part of the world. If you're a cadet at West Point, if you're a guy with a truck with a bumper sticker on it, no matter who you are, if you choose to want to represent, do all that, get it. Get a shirt, get a sticker, get a patch,
a hoodie,
get a hoodie, get a rash guard. If if you don't have a rash guard and you're doing jiu-jitsu or cycling or running, CrossFit, anything with like a lot of activity, get a rash guard if you haven't already, if you want. Anyway, there is also psychological warfare. We went through really the beginnings or not the purpose. What do you call it? The
formation. The formation.
The story behind it. Last time. Basically, it's Jocko's version of those days where you kind of got to, this is my words, in my own words. Jocko's version of those days where you got to talk yourself into doing the workout or not eating, a whole thing of Oreos or whatever. And you got to talk yourself into. Not even
one Oreo.
Yeah.
Not the whole thing.
One. Yeah.
The moments of weakness.
Yeah. When you got to talk yourself into it or out of something, Mm-hmm. Like, hey, man, you have to do this workout. Doesn't sound like that, but that's essentially, what it is. It's Jocko's version. You go on iTunes, you purchase either a track, 99 cents, or the album, like $9, I think. Something like that.
I think it's actually $9.99.
Yeah. And there's a wake up one you can put on your alarm clock on your phone.
To wake you up.
Clear it with your wife or whoever you sleep with. Go over the whole plan like a drill, like kind of like a fire drill, really, because I'm telling you, if you hear that, even if you forgot that you put it on your phone and you hear that, bro, I'm going to have some explaining to do.
The feedback has been really good.
Yeah.
People that have had trouble waking up, they don't have trouble waking up anymore.
Yep.
People that have trouble when it's snack time. People that have trouble with that, they can't say no to the donut. You get the psychological warfare attack going on against the donuts. The psychological warfare will win.
Yes.
Every single time.
Yep. And if you're having a hard time figuring out which day is workout day and rest day, when you're
I can help you figure that out real quick.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yes, that's a good point. Rest day, it isn't today.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. If you're switching your workout day to the rest day, like if you're doing those, which I used to do, this will help that for sure. I'll say that right now in public with 100% certainty that it'll solve that problem.
Sweet. Also, Jocko white tea. It is available. It's in stock. It will 100% increase your deadlift by 500%. No, Jocko white tea, pomegranate. It will make you deadlift a lot more weights. And that is 100% proven in all scientific manners. Mm-hmm. No, just kidding. It tastes good and it will make you better. You can drink it from a Get After It mug, a mug that will tell you exactly what to do in the morning, and that is get after it. And if you like what we talk about on the podcast, while you're on Amazon, after you clicked through the Jocko podcast website, then you get there and you pick up a copy of a book called Extreme Ownership. You might like it if you like the podcast. Talk about leadership and talk about war. Two of my favorite things. Also, once again, Extreme Ownership Muster 002. May 4th and 5th at the Marriott Marquis in New York City. Come to it. You will dig it. The first one we had, people had no idea what we were going to do. They had no idea. We didn't even barely put up an agenda. People came anyways. We delivered. We had an awesome time. The testimonials are cool. So you can know what you took. You can look for it this time. It's not such a mystery. You can know what you're going to get out of it. Echo's making some videos. Question?
Well, is that you're talking about the schedule? Like this one, you'll have like a schedule.
We'll have a little bit more, but just people just wondered what we were going to be doing there.
Right.
And they kind of just took it in faith that they knew one thing that we were going to do there, and that was get after it, and we did.
Yes, sir.
And so, we're going to do it again. And like I said, I think I said this last time, Echo's making videos, and once the videos come out and kind of show what's going on, it's going to sell out because the footage from the first one is awesome, and it's going to sell out quickly. So get there now. And get your tickets now so that you can come. You can hang out with a bunch of leaders, CEOs, mid-level managers, VPs, EVPs, owners, presidents. It's just everybody. And everybody that's in the game. Of course, Leif and I are going to be there. We'll be right in the mix with you. Eck will be there. JP is going to be there getting after it with us. Discounted tickets if you're law enforcement, firefighters, of course, military. If you have questions about that, or if you have like a corporate, you're going to bring 10 people, 12 people, 20 people from your company, that's fine. We can get you a discount as well. Contact the email muster@echelonfront.com, or you can just go to the website, extremeownership.com. Look forward to seeing you there. And furthermore, if you like hanging around with us here on the podcast and you want to keep hanging around with us a little bit, you're in luck because we are hanging around on the interwebs, on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you're going to be inside that Facebooky boha, we're going to be there with you, my friend. So Echo is at Echo Charles, and I am at Jocko Willink. And finally, thank you for all the questions and the feedback and the downloads and the support. To the military personnel, stay on your game and be aggressive. To the vets, thank you for your service. To the police and firefighters, thank you guys and girls for keeping us safe on the home front. And to the rest of you, fighters, grinders, troopers, leaders, keep pushing. Keep grinding. Let there be no complacency and let there be no slack. Let there only be getting after it. So until next time, this is Echo and Jocko. Out.